Chapter 5 A Slight Change. When you see time travel stories in the movies, the person who travels through time always seems to wind up exactly where he's planning to go. If he wanted to visit Napoleon, his time machine takes him to Napoleon's living room. If she wanted to witness the invention of fire, she just happens to land at the exact moment some cave person accidentally smacked two rocks together to ignite the first spark. Uncanny, isn't it? That's the movies for you. In the real world, though, things don't always work out so perfectly. When I lay down on my bed and prepared for my trip, I was expecting I'd wake up at Ebbets Field in Brooklyn, New York. That's where the Dodgers used to play. Or maybe I'd wind up at Jackie Robinson's house, or wherever he happened to be at the time. But when I woke up, I realized immediately that I wasn't at any of those places. It was totally dark and cold. I was outdoors at night. The ground was hard, concrete. Shards of glass were littered around. There were noises of cars honking. I was scared. "Hello?" I whispered hesitantly. "Anyone here?" Somebody groaned. The voice came from about 20 feet away. Carefully, I stood up and felt around me. All the stuff I had brought along seemed to be there. I felt my way toward the voice. My eyes were beginning to adjust to the dark. I could make out the form of a man. "Are you okay, mister?" I asked. The guy groaned again. He was lying on his side, clutching his arm. When I got closer, I could tell he was a black man. He was bleeding pretty heavily from his left arm near the hand. "A broken bottle," he whispered. I tried to fight them off. My mom told me she has seen people walk into the emergency room after getting attacked. The natural reaction is to use your hands to protect yourself. Unfortunately, that exposes your wrists. The site of a major artery leading away from the heart. If the attacker has a knife or some other sharp object, the artery can be opened pretty easily. If you lose too much blood, it's all over. I took off my belt as quickly as I could and wrapped it around the guy's forearm. Mom told me the important thing to do when an artery is open is to block off the blood flow somewhere between the wound and the heart. I tightened the belt around the guy's arm and held it there. In a little while, the bleeding seemed to have stopped, and the guy was able to sit up. "Thank you, brother," he said. "I hate to think what might have happened if you hadn't come along." "It was nothing," I said. "Saving a man's life? I'd say that's something." "Are you Jackie Robinson?" "No," he groaned. "Name is Bankhead. Dan Bankhead." He stuck out his right hand, his good hand, and I shook it. "Joe Stashak," I said. He didn't let go of my hand, so I grabbed on tight and pulled him up to a standing position. He was about 6 feet tall and athletically built. Dan Bankhead? What the heck was I doing in a dark alley with this guy? I wanted to meet Jackie Robinson. Something must have been terribly wrong. I must have messed up somehow. Maybe I didn't go back to 1947. I had no idea where I was or when. "If you want," Bankhead said, "I can take you to Jackie Robinson." "You know Jackie Robinson?" I asked. "Follow me, kid." Bankhead picked up my duffel bag with his good hand. I grabbed the cooler and my suitcase. I didn't want anyone to touch the suitcase. People might start asking questions. Nobody walks around with an empty suitcase unless they're planning to fill it with something. Bankhead led me out of the valley. As soon as we reached the opening, I was nearly blinded by the light. Flashing signs, enormous billboards. There must have been 10 theaters on the street. "Ethel Merman and Annie, get your gun," announced one of them in flashing lights. "Brigadoon, Finian's Rambo." On top of one building was a giant billboard of a cup of coffee and real steam pouring out of it. I had landed in New York City. I was sure of that. In Louisville at night, most everybody's indoors, watching TV, sleeping, whatever. Here it was like daytime. There were people all over the place, rushing around as if they had a place to go. The men all wore hats. Old cars filled the streets, big yellow taxis with checkerboard patterns running down the sides. "You must be new in town," commented Bankhead. "Only tourists gawk like that." Where are we? I asked. Then I noticed a street sign at the intersection. It said 43rd Street in one direction and Broadway in the other. Times Square, Bankhead replied. The center of the universe. I thought New York City was supposed to be safe in the good old days. The good old days, Bankhead chuckled. Good for white folks, maybe. Ain't so hot for Negroes who stray out of Harlem. Why did they do this to you? 3 guesses, Bankhead said, and the first 2 don't count. He led me across the street, and we walked down Broadway in the direction of 42nd Street. There are more theaters, movie theaters. Bob Hope, my favorite brunette. Abbott and Costello and Buck Privates come home. Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. My dad has it on tape, I remarked. Bankhead looked at me strangely. Oops, I'd better be more careful about what I say, I realized. They didn't have VCRs in 1947. For all I knew, they didn't even have TV. I wasn't sure how people would react if they found out I came from the future. As we walked past 40th Street and 39th Street, there were fewer lights, and the neighborhood became noticeably less busy. Bankhead told me he was a baseball player, a pitcher with the Memphis Red Sox in the Negro Leagues. He had been a Marine during World War II. His 27th birthday would be coming up in 2 weeks. With a little luck, I'm going to celebrate it by pitching for the Dodgers, he said proudly. Fat chance. I knew perfectly well that Jackie Robinson was the only African American on the Dodgers. At the corner of 36th Street and Broadway, there was a shoe store. The lights weren't on inside, but as we walked by, I saw a black kid in a window. He looked about to be my age. There was something strange about the kid, I noticed. I stopped and looked at him. He looked straight at me without moving. Maybe he's robbing the store, I thought. Should I call a policeman? The kid just kept staring at me. If he was robbing the place, he wouldn't waste time looking at me. I waved to the kid. He waved back at me like he knew me. As I turned my head to the left to tell Bankhead about the black kid in the window, I noticed the kid turned his head at the same time. Turned my head to the other side, so did the black kid. Wait a minute, that was no window. It was a mirror. I was looking at my reflection. I quickly brought my hand up to my face. The skin was dark. I had turned into a black kid. Frantically, I touched the skin on my arms. It felt like it always did, but the darkness wouldn't rub off. I looked in the mirror again and touched my hair. I must have let out a horrified gasp, because Bankhead and a few passerbys looked at me curiously. Joe, are you okay? You're white as a ghost. If he only knew. Come on, Joe, Bankhead said, as a certain annoyance in his voice now. I don't have all night. Do you want to meet Jackie Robinson or not? What happened, it occurred to me, wasn't so crazy. The first time I traveled back through time, I had gone to bed wishing I was a grown-up. When I woke up in 1909, I was one. This time I went to bed wishing I could experience what Jackie Robinson experienced when he was breaking into the big leagues. The only way that could happen would be if I became an African American. So when I woke up in 1947, I was black. Traveling back in time wasn't quite as simple as I had imagined.